All right, Tyler Perry fans, I hope everyone is having a great day. And in the event you have not seen Maxine's Baby, the Tyler Perry story on Prime Video, go ahead and watch it. But to be honest, I don't even want to call this a spoiler review. I feel like if you are someone who is a fan of Tyler Perry and you basically know like the bullet points of his upbringing, the early days, the ups and downs of his career before he really blew up, transitioning to the big screen from the plays and everything else that came after, I feel like you have a solid grasp of what this documentary has to offer. So I'm not going to say this is a spoiler-free video. I'm not going to say that I'm going to spoil anything. I just feel like if you know Tyler Perry, you know what to expect in this documentary. Now, I think about a week or so ago, I did a video talking about the early reviews of this documentary and the source that I used, the article. If you go back to that video, I think it was called something along the lines of the early reviews for Tyler Perry's documentary aren't that great. If you go back to that video, I say exactly the media outlet that did the review, and I provided an article for that review in the comments of that video. That video was not my opinion. That video was me breaking down the early review of somebody that saw the documentary in advance. This particular review will be my thoughts because I've seen it with the rest of the world on November 17th through Prime Video. At this time, I have no idea where else you can watch it. It's only on Prime Video as of, again, November 17th. It's an hour, 55 minutes long. So basically just put it on when you have 2 hours to sit and watch it. And let's jump in. This shouldn't be a long video because really I'm talking about like the highlights, the things I really liked about it. But like I said at the beginning of this video, if you watch Tyler Perry stuff and you've heard his story through interviews or if you've read articles, then you know what you're getting in this documentary. As someone who for over a decade has been well versed in absorbing Tyler Perry content, there were two different ways that I viewed this documentary. Not to sound like a know-it-all, but like going into this, I'm kind of like, if you watch Secret Invasion on Disney Plus and Nick Fury was talking to Talos, tell me something I don't know. Like that was a game he and his mom would play back in the day. So it's like, tell me something I don't know. So while watching this documentary, I'm like, tell me something I don't know about Tyler Perry. I didn't walk away from this documentary learning that much about Tyler Perry that I didn't already know. And again, that's not to sound like a big-headed know-it-all. It's just that, again, I've watched countless interviews of Tyler Perry. I've read countless articles about Tyler Perry growing up, on the DVDs of the plays and the movies where they would have behind the scenes stuff, and we would hear from Tyler himself addressing the crowd or addressing the individual who's filming, him answering questions. About his abusive upbringing, how his first play was a flop, how he was homeless at a time, but then an opportunity provided itself, came about, and from there he blew up. His play did well, then he did the movie Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and the rest is history. The second way I viewed this documentary was as someone who, okay, now, Jeremy, and I said this to myself, I was like, put yourself into the shoes of someone who is a Tyler Perry fan, but not someone who's well versed in Tyler Perry in terms of the man behind the camera, so to speak. I think this documentary knocked it out of the ballpark because I think anyone who didn't know that much about Tyler Perry after watching this documentary, I think they will have a pretty good picture of who he is today, but most importantly, the things that occurred in his early life into his adulthood that shaped him into the person that he is now. I think that this documentary did a fantastic job in terms of my favorite aspect was the background music during the moments where somebody was speaking, or background music during certain moments of intensity. I think that was fantastic. The production value, I think, was stellar. I think the directors, Beckley and Ortiz, they did great. They did great. My favorite portions of the documentary were at the very beginning when Tyler Perry's I think his cousin, Lucky Johnson. I think what made, even though it was just like, okay, this is the same stuff we know about his abusive father, and him going to church at an early age with his mom, all this stuff we already knew. But I think what made this fresh was getting the perspective of someone from Tyler Perry's childhood who wasn't just family, but also there when these things happened. So I really like that aspect of it. And I think later on we even got his bishop or preacher when Tyler, fresh out of seminary, tried to give a sermon. And it's funny because, I went to seminary myself, and I think I learned that about Tyler Perry a while ago. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I love seeing those early films of him in church, and, him on stage doing, I Know I've Been Changed. I believe that's like the first play he did. So those parts were fantastic. And as the documentary went on, I was really feeling the runtime. Not because it was boring, but like I said, this was an hour 55 minutes, and it really felt like an hour 55 minutes at times. I think it's not at the fault at the documentary. It's just two things. Number one, most of the stuff I've already heard. Number two, I was frustrated that Amazon didn't have an option where I could watch the documentary faster, increase the playback speed to 1.5 or 2 times. That probably would have helped, in my opinion. But other than that, just seeing the documentary evolve from the early years of Tyler Perry's childhood to young adult to struggling entrepreneur to eventually making it big. And the bigger he got, the more the criticism and all came in from people who felt his imagery of, the black male or black women was derogatory or, hurtful in terms of stereotypes and whatnot. But like I said, this is all stuff we've seen before. And I think there was a clip from, I forgot the show, but it's a Netflix show. And Tyler Perry's talking with the person I don't give a F about these critics and whatnot. I got an audience. I speak to them. And, I've been rocking with that wave ever since. So then the second, hour or the second half of the documentary, we kind of wrap things up in terms of, the television, the movies and whatnot. We get a few, and I mean a very few, number of behind the scenes stuff from Have and Have Not. So oh yeah, that's Mitch Malone, or hey, that's Maude from The Oval where she's at the restaurant with Victoria and the kids. I believe we got a little bit of Fatima in there for a minute, Sister Season 1. And I think, a moment most people would talk about after watching the documentary was that Emmett, Tyler Perry's father, was not willing to make any sort of appearance or commentary in the documentary. One of the directors traveled to Louisiana, but when they did, Emmett was shouting from his home to leave his property. And I think it was after his mom's death that he figured out that Emmett was not his biological father. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know if I knew that, to be honest. Maybe he said that in an interview with Oprah or something. No, that couldn't have been it. I don't know. Maybe I've heard it before, but I don't know. But yeah, it's the story of forgiveness for the shortcomings of his parents in some ways, but overall he understood as he got older why his mom stayed with his dad. And the church was a source of strength and faith in God. And even though things got bumpy there in terms of his faith, things ended up working out. It was great to see him with his son in there as well. And there's really not too much else I can say because most of what we hear from like Oprah or people from his the business world of Tyler Perry, they come up there and say, you know, what their thoughts on him, things we've already heard before. But I know earlier today, Tyler posted on social media about how he hopes this documentary inspires. And to be honest, I feel like it did succeed in that, because just based on the feedback online from a lot of people, they did enjoy the documentary. And yeah, I feel like it's definitely put together in a sense where you walk away learning a few things you didn't know in case you didn't follow Tyler Perry's career up until this point. I mean, for me, it's like, you know, going to McDonald's and getting the McRib, which just came back, by the way, and you know what you're going to get, because even though it's rare to find one in McDonald's when they bring it back like once a year, you go, you get the little box, you open it, you get the sesame seed bun, you take a bite of the rib and onion, and you're good to go. But say that you go to KFC for McRib. Let's just say, for example, they carry the McRib now. It's the exact same thing as McDonald's, but the packaging is a bit better. It's in like aluminum. It keeps the sandwich warmer for a bit longer. So it's the same product, but different packaging, but better. That's how I felt about this documentary. You know, I was taking a bite of the McRib, which I already have. I know what it tastes like. I know how it feels. But the packaging, the way this documentary was put together, I think it really made me appreciate the stuff that I already knew a little bit more. So as a result, I think this documentary was a success. Now, what would I score it? It's difficult because, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I saw this with like two different eyes, or through two different eyes, even though, yeah, technically I did, because I do have two eyes. But one as a person who, okay, I know all this stuff, tell me something I don't know, versus, okay, yeah, I could see how this could definitely give people more insight into Tyler Perry as a person. I would say overall, if I were to score this based on the message of the documentary and its purpose, which was to inspire, and I talked about, like, you know, how it was put together, like the music, the different clips and media used, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10 from that perspective. But if I were looking at it from the, okay, what did I learn from this, down the third, I would probably give it like a 7, because it's just a compilation of everything I already know about Tyler Perry in one neat package. So 7 or 9 is really how you want to pick, like, what score you think works best. How would you rank the documentary? Do you think you would rewatch it anytime soon? You know, it's kind of ironic. For example, December 2nd of this year, so basically in like 2 weeks, Thriller 40, the Thriller documentary for Michael Jackson's album, that comes out on Paramount Plus, I believe. You know, I'm a Michael Jackson fan, and I know pretty much, I wouldn't say everything, but I know a lot about Michael Jackson. And even though I'm looking forward to that documentary, because kind of like with the Tyler one, okay, I already know all the songs and all this stuff and the background and the making of the album. So when I watch this documentary, am I going to learn something that I didn't already know? Like, will I learn some behind the scenes intel about some of the songs on the album that aren't necessarily as big as a Beat It or Billie Jean, like what's that song, Baby Be Mine, for example? If I do, and I'm like, okay, now I like this song better because I know more about it, that's what I think of when I watch a documentary. Do I walk away learning something I didn't already know? And do I appreciate the subject matter of the documentary more once I've turned off the TV? So let me know what you thought of Maxine's Baby. It's like that one anchor from The View said she felt like she met Tyler Perry's mother after watching the documentary. And I can definitely get that. So well done. And that's all I have. So thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.